Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Triangulation is brought to you by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Triangulation with Tom Merritt and Leo Laporte. Episode 14, recorded May 11th, 2011. Dan Bricklin. Triangulation is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/triangulation and be sure to check out their annual plans for savings of up to 20% off. And by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies streamed to your PC, Mac, or TV instantly. Plus, get DVDs by mail in about one business day. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Tom Merritt and I have been being silly, singing songs, talking about silly things, but now we're going to get a little more serious with one of the pioneers of the computing industry. In fact, I would say Dan Bricklin. Well, what's interesting about Dan, but we have had his partner Bob Frankston on.
Yeah,
Dan and Bob created VisiCalc, which was the original spreadsheet program, without which I wonder if Apple would have sold computers to business at all.
I had VisiCalc on a 5 1/4-inch floppy.
Yeah, you know, you could download it from the internet. It's like 64K.
Yeah, I know. I remember when it kind of hit Boing Boing and Slashdot a while back that was still available.
So it was the first spreadsheet program. And these young guys created VisiCalc and have gone on to many other big things. Dan, actually, last time we talked to him, he was on Twit talking about his book on technology, which is a really great history of all of the amazing things that he's seen happen. I mean, this guy literally created the PC industry and has some amazing stories. There he is with Evan Williams, the Twitter guy. Dan is still active, still writing software. In fact, he has an iPad app. So we're going to get Dan Bricklin on to talk. I think we'll have some reminiscing. We'll talk about the future, too. Dan Bricklin coming up on technology in just a moment. But before we do that, I would love to mention one of our great sponsors, the folks at Squarespace.com. Do you have a Squarespace site?
I have several. Actually, I have
Sword and Laser is
Forecast.
Squarespace.
Forecastpodcast.com is Squarespace. Yep. Sword and Laser is Squarespace.
They're a blogging. Well, I don't even want to say that. They're a website company. They do the hosting, so it's web hosting plus software, and it's so tightly integrated. You know, sometimes you get web hosting and they have a bunch of software you can install. No, they go together hand in hand, because the software is running in the Squarespace servers very intimately connected. Basically, Squarespace was created to host a Squarespace page, and what a great job it does. It's the secret behind exceptional websites. That's their tagline, and I think completely appropriate. If you don't have a website, well, nobody listening to this show wouldn't have a website. But if you don't have a website, if your business doesn't have a website, if your kids don't have a website, you need one. And Squarespace makes it easy. In fact, if you want to make a website for your kids or your mom and dad or just a friend, Alex Lindsay does it for businesses. He goes, yes, he did it for a restaurant. He went to the restaurant. They didn't have a website. He said, well, look, while he's eating dinner, he sets up a Squarespace website. Very easy to do. Just go to squarespace.com/triangulation. Click the green button. Enter in a name, a password, and an email address, and you've got the site. You got 2 weeks to play with it. Use all the great Squarespace features. And then, if they like it, they could just take it over. So it's kind of a fun way to create a site. And because they have such good templates and simple-to-use configuration utilities, you can literally build a site while you're eating dinner and have it up and running.
You can build a site with one hand.
With one hand. You shovel the spaghetti with your left. You make the Squarespace with your right. Go to squarespace.com/triangulation. Take the tour. Look at the examples. I think Sword and Laser's in here.
Used to be in the gallery.
In the gallery, yeah. There's blog, business, design and art, e-commerce, food and drink, health and wellness. It'd be in media and publishing, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, there's Bob Woodruff. There's
Inside Twit.
That's ours. That's our blog. We use it, of course. Hey, you're on the front page of that. Look at that. Look at that. About TNT. Here's Brian Brushwood's site.
Yep.
Totally Rad Show, Revision 3. A lot of people we know on Squarespace. Clayton Morris. It is such a...
Sword and Laser.
There's the Sword Sword and laser. Now, one of the things, I bet you never have a problem with this. Squarespace can handle any amount of traffic. So if you all of a sudden say, everybody, run to swordandlaser.com, they can't bring it down.
Well, and that's one of the nice things. If we have a big popular author like Patrick Rothfuss or somebody, and we post it, we don't worry.
Never.
Oh, we better add some bandwidth, keep an eye on it.
Now, I see you have the podcast on here. Is that hosted by them or is it hosted by somebody else?
Well, the files themselves are hosted by archive.org. We could host it
well,
through
it's
them.
free to put them on archive.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
fine. And then where did you get the Flash player? That's cool.
That's the archive.org Flash.
So you can just embed that into a blog post.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Put
Makes
that
it as easy as pie to make a website. There's the show notes. And the podcast is embedded right in there. Like, isn't that cool? I want you to try it free. Go to squarespace.com/triangulation and set up your first site. Just do it for fun. Then if somebody says to you, hey, have you ever set up a website? You say, yes, I have.
Well, yes, I have.
Yes, I have.
I did one while you asked me that.
The secret behind exceptional websites. Let's get Dan Bricklin on the Skype. Dan's got quite a setup. He's going to actually, the last time he was on, when he was on Twit, he wrote a blog post about how to be on Twit. That's fantastic. We refer people to it all the time. He went out and got microphones. He got the equipment. Maybe he's a perfectionist. He takes this stuff very seriously. And
we could learn something from it.
Yeah. It's kind of putting me to shame, I'll be honest with you. But once again, this time he said, well, I want to show my iPad app, so I'm going to need, let's see, what am I going to need? I'm going to need a second camera.
And then he just builds it.
I'm going to need a switcher.
Yeah, he makes it happen.
Let's get Dan Bricklin on the line. Dan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, let's get that video started so we can see what you've been up to.
Let's see, where's the video?
Oh, you made a mistake. You downloaded the new Skype.
Yeah. That doesn't work with you.
It works fine. It's not us.
You got the new Microsoft Skype.
No, I'm on a Mac.
It's got the hairiest, stupidest UI ever. And people find it hard to start the video on it, to be honest with you.
Okay, so tell me how to do it.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang up and you call me, because there's a button that says call with video.
I will.
And that seems to solve it sometimes for people. This is the worst. It's unbelievable. And if I were Skype and somebody had offered me $8.5 billion, I would have taken it right away.
I don't blame them.
Because they were just going down. And we're going to get rid of this thing as soon as we can replace it with video. But in the meanwhile, everybody has Skype, so it works pretty well.
The old Skype works great.
I did tell him to call us back, didn't I?
You did. There he is.
Oh, there he is. Answer with video. Now, if all goes well, this is a weird workaround, but it works.
It's the don't call us, we'll call you feature.
There's Dan Bricklin, everybody. Hey, Dan, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Hey, Dan, nice to meet you.
Same here.
That's Tom Merritt sitting over there.
Yeah, I see him on the TV all the time.
He's on the TV, Martha.
Yeah.
So, Dan, when you see a UI like this Skype UI that's just kind of impossible to understand, you go way back as a designer. You did prototyping tools so people could test and see the UI. Are you surprised that here we are, 25, 35 years into the personal computer revolution, and people are still making boneheaded mistakes like Skype 5?
Well, I mean, the thing is they should be testing it, and they should know what percentage of people will find it working or not working. I mean, when you're that big a company.
You'd think.
I mean, it's hard enough as a little company like mine to be able to do that. I get people emailing me every day if there's a problem. And maybe that's the thing.
They did reach out and say, look, can you send us your logs?
You know what they ended up doing? They ended up putting 2.8 on their website saying, we're sorry we made such a terrible version of Skype. If you would like to go back and use the old one. I mean, what an admission. That must just be painful.
Yeah.
In any event, I just thought it's kind of, here we are,
Yeah, but it's been working. I mean, it was able to do the thing where I could switch from one.
Let me see that. So you're going to show us. You're going to show us
so
the second camera solution here.
Theoretically, I should be able to call up Skype preferences and say switch to the other camera.
All right.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, this is very theoretical. Oh, kind of worked. Yeah,
I saw it for a second.
Yeah. Oh, now it's good. Okay, there it is. Is that it?
It's coming back.
I hit the wrong button. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, if you hit set,
check that out.
That's cool. Yeah. And now, how are you getting such a good shot? Oh, I get it. You're just shooting the camera with it. I get it.
Yeah. What I do is I have a little mini DV camera, and it's up there. Let's see, how do I point here? It's right up on like a tripod or something. I'll show pictures later.
Hey, I try to brush my hair in the camera, and I always get it wrong because it's not like it's supposed to be. It's not.
Actually, I have a monitor on it too.
Oh, wow.
I have a little monitor that's over there. Cool. And up there is the camera. And I have, let's see, HDMI coming down this way into the monitor. And FireWire coming down into the MacBook. And in Skype, you just say, switch the cameras.
Right.
And that's it. It seems to work. So I can show you stuff. I can show you, any toys I have and stuff like that.
Very cool. I'm glad you did that. You wrote such a great blog post when you were on Twit about all the stuff you did. I thought, well, he's got a perfect setup. He doesn't need to do anything more, and you started all over.
Yeah. Well, this time because I needed 2 cameras, and I looked like I'm going to have to use the EyeSight, the built-in one in the MacBook, to be able to have another one like this. So then I had to set the lights up differently, and I don't know. And if I'm moving back and forth, I can't put a microphone in front of me.
Right.
So I got to get a headset. That works.
Right.
That's right.
Which headset did you end up getting?
I got an Audio Technica.
Oh, those are really good. It sounds great.
Yeah, thanks. But the thing is that it's analog, and the MacBook Pro doesn't have an easy analog in.
No. Nope.
So I went off, and I've needed a battery-powered preamp. So I got this little sound device, this thing.
Cool.
I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
But it's got,
That's actually a great device. It's very expensive, but we really like that device.
Yeah. Well, it's not as expensive as their mixer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like half the price of the mixer, and it gives you these nice, clean preamps and stuff.
It's one of the best preamps out there. It's funny that you should have picked that. That's what Alex Lindsay's been recommending. When we were at the NAB show, we went over to the booth there, but I gasped when I saw how much it cost.
Yeah, it's
it's like, okay. So Dan, it's kind of neat because how many years have you been doing this? You VisitCalc was what, 77?
79.
79.
It's when VisitCalc came out, but I had already been doing things for a while at that point.
But you haven't lost your enthusiasm for it.
Oh no, I mean I love programming. That's why I went back to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, I had been, sort of running companies and being a CTO and stuff like that, and said, forget it. I want to go back and program more.
Yeah.
And I've shipped a few things in the last few years.
That's pretty cool. Now, Software Garden was the demo stuff, right? Originally.
Yes, it is.
And
Should I switch back to the other camera?
Yeah. I'd like to see you. I'll show. We'll show some more of.
We'll go back to. We can go back.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
Show my app later.
We'll get to that. We'll do Dan first, then we'll do Note Taker.
Yeah. Now, do you see me now?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good.
Looking good.
Okay.
Looking sharp. So,
of course, Skype doesn't show me.
Oh, Skype's not showing you, just us.
No, it shows me in what you're sending back, but not in. It has a real problem.
It doesn't show your inset. I see.
Yeah, the inset shows a picture of me or something. Software without lots of bugs is really, really tough.
Yeah.
And testing with, what do they say, 160 million, how many millions of users they have? Hundreds of millions of users?
Hundreds of millions of users. Yeah.
And testing that is like really tough. So the fact that it works so well in so many cases is amazing.
Yes.
It is kind of.
That's good. That's a good. Thank you for putting it into perspective, because as users, sometimes we don't have the sympathetic.
We get impatient
point of view,
even though it's free.
Yeah,
yeah. Even though it's completely free.
Oh, it's even worse when it's free.
Yeah. What are we bitching about? We're getting this great thing. I mean, it is pretty amazing what it does, and it's absolutely free. And frankly, I wouldn't have a network for the last 6 years if it weren't for Skype. Right. So, bad Leo. No, I won't badmouth them anymore. So, was VisitCalc, now you wrote VisitCalc in, was it 6502 assembler when you wrote it?
Bob wrote it, yeah. I wrote a little bit of it. I wrote the transcendental functions and stuff. It was in a macro assembler.
Macro assembler, okay.
Macro assembler. So there basically were, I think, 3 go-tos in the whole thing.
Wow.
It was all done with a macro assembler that had macros for if, then, else and stuff that Bob used.
It's one of the reasons it's so small.
Yeah, well, we didn't have much space. It had to run in 32K, including the screen buffer and the OS.
Wow.
So that was really tough. I mean, but I prototyped it in BASIC.
Oh, really?
In floating point BASIC. It was prototyped in that. And Bob then worked off of that and off of my spec. Because because we had a working prototype and we had the reference card that told you what it did and a little bit of a manual that I started writing, an early manual that didn't end up being the real manual. And, and Bob built it. It fit. I helped him with some of the design of some of the internal data structures, and he took care of the way that the whole thing worked and what the loop was, the main loop and stuff like that.
And you still offer on your website the executable.
Yes.
27K.
Yep. Still runs on the IBM PC. And that's because it's not copy protected. That was one we happen to have in-house that somebody saved and gave to me years later and said, here's an uncopy protected version. And that version is the one that we're able to use. Yeah. I mean, if it was only the copy protected version, you wouldn't be able to use it unless you had an old IBM PC,
right? Like
I do back in the warehouse.
Really? Do you ever fire it up?
When the right TV cruise comes out and needs it.
You type on the green screen.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I never thought about that, but that's another issue with copy protection is it's not gonna have a very long lifespan. Only as long as the protection server
reduces that ability to preserve.
Go read the write-up that I have on my website called "Copy Protection Robs the Future."
Thank you.
It's an old essay that I wrote about that.
Really good. This, by the way, website is great. Highly recommended. And the book is still available from Wiley & Sons and is a kind of nonstop read. I mean, it's just fantastic.
I think it's going out of print, so please buy the copies.
Do you have electronic? Is there an electronic version?
No. Oh, that's a sore point between us. They said, well, let's see. Because all of your readers really were Kindle people, we didn't come out with the Kindle version first because we weren't doing Kindle versions. Now we won't, since it didn't sell so well this year because it's the second year, we won't switch it to the Kindle even if you're willing to do it for free and you'll do all the conversion. And we already done the conversion, whatever. They wouldn't put it on the Kindle for me. So I don't know. We're kind of stuck.
And you don't have the rights to do it on your own, I guess.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
See, I have a lot of rights, but I've been too busy iPad programming to do stuff like that.
Sure.
So, and I think there's still copies out there, a few copies you can get your hands on. And
you can't have
a lot
mine,
of
though.
the original material is still there.
You can't have
on
mine
the website.
I have 2 copies, but you can't have mine. Copy.
Collector's
you can
items.
borrow it. You can borrow it.
You
but
can
I
get
want it back.
used. You can get used copies, but
Wait,
you can't get
signed?
Kindle copies.
No,
This one's not signed.
Oh,
I want.
No?
So when next time you're out here, I want you to sign it.
yeah.
You're still back east. You still in Boston area, or?
Yep, in the Garden City of Newton, Massachusetts. So
Newton.
about 3 blocks from Bob Frankston.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah.
I feel bad because of all the people in the world, it seems like you'd be the least likely to want to look backward, and yet I'm sure every time we talk, I have to make you look backwards. I'm sorry. I apologize about that.
It's okay. Better than not wanting to.
And at least you have something you can say, hey, I mean, there's something worth looking at.
Yeah.
It's not, not your many years in prison or something.
Right.
It's something to celebrate. But you have been kept very active. I realize now, it says on the site it was created in Trellix. I forgot about Trellix.
Mm-hmm.
Another kind of a prototyping software.
It was used for creating hypertext documents that then became a website authoring tool, and then became a cloud-based one that was used by Tripod. May still be used. I don't know.
Really?
It was used by Verizon. May still be. I don't know who. Let's see. We got bought out by Interland, which got bought out by Web.com, giving a few pennies back to our investors. And I left then after a year and went off and started programming again and did open source product called List Garden and WikiCalc.
WikiCalc's very interesting. That's
now that's in Perl and that's server side. So then I went and worked with the people at Social Text and did a product called Social Calc, which is a JavaScript-based version of the spreadsheet. It's a full spreadsheet. And it's open source, and it's available as part of Social Text's, enterprise social software system.
I've actually used this. It's really sweet.
Yeah, and they have such really cool stuff now with their Signals thing, which is basically Twitter behind the firewall,
right?
With threads and all that. But they funded the development of this this JavaScript version, which is open source enough that it's on the one laptop per child.
Oh, that's neat. That's probably
they
where
took it.
Yeah.
Yeah. they took it, put it on the XO, and it's being used all over the world by hundreds of thousands of people, or more, I guess. And they added graphing to it, and they added multi-user simultaneous to it, and all sorts of stuff, and translated it to all sorts of languages. But that was JavaScript, heavy-duty JavaScript. So I did a lot of that.
Are you completely language agnostic, or?
Yeah, whatever's appropriate.
Whatever works.
I love JavaScript.
Do you?
I mean, I'm so happy that it's like such a dominant language now.
People complain about the fact that it runs differently on every platform. It's got bugs. But you don't. Do you use jQuery? Do you use libraries?
Nope. I wrote it all from scratch. I wanted to learn how all this stuff was. I wanted to learn the differences between the browsers. It supports IE6 in all sorts of ways.
I don't. Is that good?
It was tough, but the early Safari was even tougher. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But now handling WebKit and
a lot easier.
That's pretty good.
I'm sure it's gotten much simpler.
Yeah, I guess. But they're always funny when you're really pushing it hard, like it is. I mean, it's an incredible product. But then I decided, I should look at some other stuff and wanted to go into mobile. I first looked at doing it for Palm because that was JavaScript based.
Right.
But they didn't have enough of the APIs that I needed. So I looked to do iPhone development and picked up a book and read it and said, oh, this doesn't look too hard. I used to program in C. And, a few months later, I came out with an app on the iPhone.
It's Objective-C, yeah?
Objective-C.
Yeah. Using Xcode.
And so came out with an app, and it did okay for a while. And then the iPad came out. And the iPhone version didn't feel very good. UI was really lousy on the big iPad. So I rewrote it, remodified it and all to work on the iPad, and it's been going great guns ever since. It's like one of the top apps.
That's neat. Note Taker HD. And in fact, this is how we got Dan on the show. We were talking about Notepad apps on iPad today, and Dan said, hey, you left out mine.
I got one.
You left out my app. So I downloaded it immediately, and it's very sweet. It's very cool. You've got ink, so people can draw notes as well as type them. You've got tagging. Mm-hmm. You can have customized backgrounds.
You can write on top of PDFs. It's used a lot by students, by lawyers, by contractors. It's used a lot of the students are medical students for some reason. They seem to like it.
And it stores locally, everything?
Yep. Yeah. Now, what about getting data off the iPad? So a lot of people complain about that. You don't support Dropbox or anything like that?
I produce PDF output. And the PDF output can be open in something in. Right. So you can open in Dropbox, and hopefully in the next version you'll be able to go more directly to Dropbox, both directions.
That seems to be the kind of dominant way to do that these days.
Yeah. Are you interested at all in the Chrome web apps system that's being developed now, and the stuff they're doing with Chrome Web OS?
Well, I'm interested in lots of stuff, but I'll tell you, to keep my users happy. And it's a very competitive market. I'm just programming away on this one app. Mm-hmm. So I really don't have time to spend on a lot of the other things. I'll buy them. I mean, I have a what's this? A Zoom right here.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get something up on that one of these days. And, I use all sorts of stuff and look at it. But just about all of my time is going to iPad development.
Do you feel, I mean, I understand why you would do that, because once you get going on something, you want to stick with it. But do you feel like now you're locked in to the Apple universe? Because that's one thing I hear a lot of developers complain about, is that they have to develop for Apple because that's where all the users are, but then they can't really easily take those applications and port them elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And I wrote a blog post recently, or an essay that's at the top of my website, about that challenge. There's this major challenge about all the different places, which is why writing in JavaScript has its advantages. For my case, for me, it's not as much of a problem because this is making enough money that it's okay to stay on this one. And I'm really interested in UIs and where things are going. And the iPad is leading edge enough that just using some of the others keeps me up to date enough to be able to answer questions and stuff like that, and consult or whatever I need to do. Plus, it's fun to have a product that lots and lots of people are using every day. it's a little problematic that they send you emails with support stuff every single day too, which is why, going back to your original question about usability and stuff, I find out really quickly.
Yes.
And if you have real problems, you're going to get a lot of emails, and that slows you down, which gives you impetus to fix it real fast. If the CEO of Skype or something was getting all those emails, filling up their BlackBerry, they'd fix it much faster.
Oh, yeah. Of course, they've got $8.5 billion. They probably don't care anymore. You wrote actually an article last year about the iPad, saying that with the iPad, you're the magician. The programmer's a magician, not the consumer.
That's what I view it as, is that being a magician is being able to control something. That's what's amazing. When you see a magician, they have this control. They can wave a magic wand and something happens. If you remember, Dorothy trying to use the crystal ball, which the Wicked Witch uses and all. Well, that's all magic. And now we can do that. We have the control of things using our fingers. And it feels very much like a lot of magic stuff in terms of the control we have. And I think, even though they say you're consuming, but you're controlling the consumption.
That's
the browsing, the whole thing is that when you sit there with this very social device, I mean, an iPad as opposed to an iPhone is a very social device, because I can put it between us and you can see what I'm doing and the magic we share, because you could grab it too. And let's say we're looking at a map, and I can zoom in and zoom out where I want to look. The websites, I can do that. I can turn the pages exactly the way that I want. That to me is that control. The fact that the iPad gives you more room to have more controls and to make it more obvious what they do is one of the beauties of the iPad, why it's not just a big iPod Touch.
It's very intimate, isn't it? And it's interesting because I remember when the Apple mouse first came out, some people sometimes said it was direct drive. There was this sense that it was directly connected to the pointer on the screen. And I think that in some ways that's been the evolution of user interfaces, hasn't it? From kind of distancing you from the process in the computer to getting you more and more intimate with it, to the point where you are the magician. I think that's very apt.
I was really, really turned on by Kinect, when it first was announced as
the Microsoft.
I wrote up about that, and I actually talked to Microsoft about it, but shall we say, they didn't listen to me about things, and a year later they're backtracking and doing what I told them to do. But luckily for me, I didn't work on that, and I wouldn't.
What did they do wrong?
They didn't open it up right away the way they are now. Have an say, hey, look, if you program on Windows, or you can plug it into a Linux box using a special little box here, and here's an open API that you can work through. Everything on the other side is ours, but this is open, and here, let's start working on some libraries for it. Think of all the cool things you could do with it. Well, think if they did that a year before.
Yeah, and
people have been working on it.
They started with saying, we're going to enforce our terms of service, don't you touch it. Then they realized that was stupid and backtracked and said, well, I guess you can do whatever you want with what comes out of it. And now they're doing what you suggested, which is, let's help you do stuff.
And people are coming up with these great ideas for it. So this whole thing of being able to interact with the computer by moving is a big area. I mean, Surface, Microsoft Surface was an area with that. It's which we saw on CNN with the old Perceptive Pixel stuff. But, we've been using, I brought to show you. Okay. So this.
What is that?
Now, look at this. Now, look, it's pretty thin, right?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, look at that. It's not bad.
Is that a Go? Is that a Slate? What is that?
It's an NCR. This is an NTR 3125. It's from about 1991.
Wow.
This is a this is a machine that would run either Penn Windows, I think, or Go's operating system. It has Go's in it. If I plugged it in, it still works. But it worked with a pen, because you can still use a Wacom pen on it. It still works. But so we've been working on these things for years, but we didn't have the graphics processing. And we didn't have the touch the same way. But now, thanks to all the gaming, thank God for gaming, just like, CD-ROMs got there for a lot of that stuff. we have these incredibly powerful display processors. And Apple took that display processor and integrated it really well into the whole OS so that you take advantage of it for everything. And that's where you get this nice fluid feel for doing things. And by taking that graphics processor and the faster everything else we have, and now we have much more powerful, much less power hungry, but much more powerful CPUs, we can do the things we've dreamt about. I mean, if you look at what Alan Kay talked about years ago with the Dynabook and all, we've been thinking and wanting to do this for years, but we finally have the hardware has gotten to the point where we can do it.
What's the next big thing we can't do yet that we're about to overcome? I mean, we're starting to get all kinds of multi-threading processors and multi-core processors. What barrier is about to fall, do you think?
Well, a lot of them have been physical. I mean, that's the thing. Getting it really light so you can carry it around. Connectivity. A lot of the stuff that Bob Frankston talked about connectivity. So wherever you are, you can just have it without having to pay here and pay there and stuff like that. We're seeing it with video. We're now starting to use this multiple machines together and adding it together, perhaps in real time, to get stuff. And it's incredibly powerful what we're being able to do. I mean, the fact that you can take an iPhone or something and take a few pictures, and then you can get a physical model because you can get a 3D image by just using a lot of processing power. I mean,
that's pretty impressive. That's the Microsoft PhotoSynth.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. But now I think they're actually working on stuff that they actually make a physical thing. It actually produces one of those devices that, I read about that.
Wow. You can hook it up to a 3D printer and then, wow.
Who's doing that, Autodesk or whomever.
Do you have worries about cloud storage and this movement because when you talk about having everything everywhere, part of the key to that is having your data available in a remote place that you can access.
Let me tell you about my morning. I have these wonderful videos that I put up of stuff like I have a video of a whole hour demo of Go that I got permission to put up from 1991. And I put it up on Google Video. And I have a lot of these hour-long videos. Yeah, and I got this email from them a few weeks ago saying it's going away. You have to download it. Luckily, they're letting me put it onto YouTube. This morning I'm downloading all these things. And to make sure I have backup of it, because I don't know if that much video if I had the storage for it in the old days, but now I have these little terabyte drives all over the place.
Yeah.
And I give them as wedding presents. But what I'll do is I'll go to a wedding and I'll do videotaping. I will. Let's say I'm videotaping a wedding for somebody as a present, and the next morning I hand them half a terabyte or a terabyte drive that has all the raw files on it for them. Let them edit it.
Let them do the hard work.
If I give them 7 hours of video, I'm not going to sit there and edit.
So you're saying be a little skeptical of that cloud storage because you never know when they're going to take it away?
Well, you want both. Cloud is wonderful. I mean, I've been in the business, and in many ways, I'm still associated with Social Text that has that stuff. It's great having it there and as backup, but sometimes you want to have your own copy because they have their own business models, and they can change. I can't depend on Google now to still have that there. I have some old videos that were on my website that Reel used to have, and they stopped carrying them. So now and I didn't have enough storage for the stuff. So some wonderful videos I had from the late 90s are gone because some cloud isn't having it anymore. So the cloud is okay short term. Long term, I don't know. But it's the same thing we have with our own hard disks. Every time I get a new hard disk with a new machine, I take everything I used to have from that old, huge 300 gigabyte and put it into my, put it in the corner of the new drive, and then take that and I'll put it in the corner of a new drive. And I've been doing that for years. So you just always make copies. I mean, that's how archivists often keep things going. You make copies. It's really hard to keep the original. Look how hard it is for us to keep the Constitution. But copies of the Constitution all over the place. It's much easier to move ahead copies. Go back to my copy protection robs the future archive.
Right. It's actually librarians are going to have work for years. This whole issue of archiving data is actually fascinating.
It's a whole new. I mean, being a librarian is a whole new thing.
It's an information business. Yeah.
It's really information science.
Yeah.
I mean, for years, they've been the ones who would do the searches for you. They had to be really good at LexisNexis, but now they have to be good at other things.
We've disintermediated that part anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but that's why copy protection and all this other stuff is a real problem.
Well, anything that's an impediment to the free flow of information, right?
Yeah, and to storing of it. I mean, to archiving it and being able to keep it, because what happens is people who have a financial interest decide on their own what they think is worthwhile keeping for financial reasons. They don't know what, that Pachelbel's canon will be interesting,
right.
50 years or 100 years later.
Right.
I mean,
and that's the orphan works issue. Also, there's all these works that are still in copyright.
Yeah, and it's not
kind
just
of working on the other direction.
Yeah, it's not just about copying either. It's about being able to read it.
Yes,
you can copy data over and over and over, but if you don't have the ability to decode
if you're copying zip disks,
right.
you're out of luck.
Yeah, what are you doing?
So I keep all my old computers with all the old software on them, and I've been able to resurrect things. For an expert witness job that I did, I had to go look at VP Planner, which turns out to be one of the real important products in intellectual property world. Even though Lotus said that it was a clone of theirs, it actually had some innovative things that were very useful for breaking some patents. But I was able to run old software like that. Needed an old copy of trying to remember various pieces of stuff. I could get them from my warehouse and plug them into an old compact or something. Lug around the old compact.
Well, I wanted to ask you about intellectual property because you never got a patent on VisiCalc. Is that right?
No, I couldn't. That was before the days of
software patents. Yeah.
Pre-software patents by just the amount of time we were allowed to, told you couldn't patent anymore.
So,
or else we would have patented.
Do you think that bringing in patents to software has helped more than it's harmed? Where should we go with this?
You should read what I wrote about it. It's best that I don't say much more. I have some stuff that I've written about my feelings on it. I hold some patents, and I've recommended to companies to go for patents. I was in the first case where a jury invalidated a patent in Eastern Texas, which is the special place for doing that. I was the expert who invalidated the patent, helped invalidate the patent. So I've been on both sides of this. I've worked for some really big companies and some small companies with that. And it's, the Supreme Court still hasn't really decided how patentable software is. They've already said that. So we'll see. It's been a problem. Microsoft seems to be wavering back and forth what they think. They're usually involved in like a dozen major suits at any given time.
Yeah, I don't think the issue is, to me, it's never been patented. The patents are the issues. It's just the arbitrary nature of the patent award process.
There are issues all over, and I wrote something about that too.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right here on your blog.
Yeah, I wrote a whole thing about patents, and so there's it's a very complex area, and we could do hours talking about that. But I'd much rather talk about my app and stuff.
Oh, let's talk about your app.
Yeah, let's talk about my app.
First of all, why an app? What was it that prompted you to say it started as an iPhone app? I'm going to do an iPhone app. Was there something? I mean, you're used to constrained environments. I mean, the original Apple II computer wasn't exactly, as you say, 32 megs of RAM.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'll tell you, you ain't constrained on this little iPhone.
No, this is a supercomputer.
Right, yes. What it was is that, I had been in the ink world, where back in the 90s I was involved at Slate Corporation. We did a product called Daytimer Pen Scheduler, which lets you write and take notes in a daytimer. It was worked with Daytimers Corporation. We did a pen-based spreadsheet where you could actually write ink into cells. So if you, rather than just recognizing it, which you could put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but you could also just write some ink and it would stay there unrecognized, because why spend the time to recognize it? So I'd done a lot of work with that, and I realized, when somebody says, "Here, let me give you your phone number," and I pulled out my phone, typing it in, backspace, it's a real mess. especially on an iPhone, it's a real mess, because, you're off by a little bit, and for phone numbers, you can't be wrong.
Right.
There's no, you don't get like, almost looks like a 2. Almost looks like a 2 is 1 or a 3, So I said, well, why don't I write a little app just for ink, for quickly taking notes? And I've always been involved with Zooming and stuff. I had a product called Overall that involved zooming in and out. And these are both areas I've had patents in, but in the old days. And so I built an app called Note Taker for taking notes on the iPhone. There's a free download called Note Taker Lite, but make sure you watch the videos and follow the tutorial carefully. And it's cool. People can say, "Here's my phone number," and I can write it real fast, and I have all sorts of notes on it. And
so you don't have to recognize it. Is the point?
No, it doesn't recognize.
You keep it as ink.
You keep it as ink. You end up with these. I don't know if you can see them. There are a lot of little
notes.
Little notes, and if you tap on any one of them. Here's, the filter, the information for the filter I had to buy for my the heating system downstairs.
But how do you do the taxonomy? I mean, you're writing a number. How do we know that's a number?
You write the number real big.
Yeah.
And it shrinks it down and puts it real small.
Ah, so I can see it.
Yeah. Now that's Note Taker on the
iPad.
On the iPhone.
No, you're doing the iPhone.
iPad. On the iPad, I separated it out. Instead of writing on top, and it takes what you write and shrinks it down, you write on the bottom. Should I give you a demo?
Yeah.
And that's Note Taker HD, right?
That's Note Taker HD.
Yeah, that's what I have here, too. So I'm playing with it at the same time as you're doing it. Yeah.
So let's switch this.
This is very cool, actually. This is I can insert. So what's nice is it's a metaphor that we're used to. I think it's interesting that you worked at Slate, and so some of these problems you've already solved.
Yeah.
Many
I was
moons
used to thinking
ago.
That way.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Can you see it?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So over here you have, on this side, there are little thumbnails, and you can have them, in different ways. You can have them, a lot of them or a few of them. And when you tap on one, you get to see over here what it looks like with the page.
Look at that.
And you can zoom in on it. This is actually one that one of my users did, and you can, it has a couple pages.
Well, it looks like it was written on notebook paper and scanned in.
Yeah.
Yes, it looks like that, but you could do it yourself.
Oh, that's great.
So let's do one here. So I'll make a blank page. So here we're looking at it, and I can use a stylus. Okay. So if we do, so we're writing big like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I can zoom in. And let's see, this week. And then we have to zoom in. This is a pain in the neck.
Right.
To have to go in and out like that. You can go quickly in and out with these. I have some buttons for that. But so this is called Edit 1 because there's one window. If you push the Edit 2 button, now you have two windows, one at the bottom, one at the top. And there's this little detail area. And whatever's in the blue, little blue, shows up.
Oh, look at that.
So I can say, Leo.
Oh, that's cool.
So notice I'm writing down here real big. Let's advance it.
But it's tiny there, yeah.
Tiny, so you can write with your finger. On whatever. Now, this back and forth is, pushing advance is a pain in the neck. So what I did was, you have auto advance. Now with auto advance, let's push return. Auto advance. Notice this thing goes gray. Now, as soon as I start writing on that, it automatically moves over. Moves as you write. So you don't even have to tap on anything. You don't have to wait for anything. It just automatically does it. Now,
this is what first thing I'm thinking is this is what Microsoft OneNote should have been.
Yeah, it's I have to watch out for some of the patents and OneNote, whatever. But now
this is just awesome.
Now look at some of the issues you have. Now, I'm not really into cursive, but now I had to be able to know. Oops, that one should have done that. It shouldn't have. Let's try that again. Let's try this. Testing, because I took that. It has to be able to detect things like crossing eyes, dotting eyes. it knows some of that stuff. It has a lot of things in it. You can go to...
Well, as I play with it, that's one of the things I noticed immediately. This is actually a very deep program. You have arrows. You could put photos in there.
Yeah, you can do. You have undo and redo, and you can do all the stuff that you would expect.
You've got all sorts of shapes.
You can sketch out some pictures.
Now the shapes is a lot of fun. Let me show you this. Create another sheet. So now we have 2 sheets in this, one after another, so they go together. Let's make that bigger, and let's go shapes. I have a list of lots and lots of shapes. I have these are actually very smart. I don't know if you've seen how smart these are. Let's put in like this arrow, this one here. Okay, drag this in. So here you have a nice little arrow, right? And I can type some text in it. Text here. Okay, but and you can move it around, you can make it bigger, smaller, but there are a lot of attributes. I can rotate it. Okay, I can turn it into...
the text goes with it. It goes with it.
Yeah, is that cool? And I can set it that it works now only on 45 degrees. This is all soft. This is all... I had a designer, my nephew, who wrote in this little specification language I put together that basically describes these things. And the code goes along with it.
So that's interesting. So you wrote an interpreter into this.
That does this. Now it's for its own stuff. I mean, which Apple lets you do, but no, but I think that's a very interesting thing that I think really good software designers like you do is kind of the abstraction level. You take the extra time to abstract it into its own kind of pseudocode, which makes it so much easier than to develop more stuff. Because I wanted to be able to do, look at this. This is a, let's see, fill color. Now, for the geeky types, you can, I can make the fill color. Not only you can adjust the opacity here, but if you want to, you can actually get to the hex, and sort of hide that in there.
I love it. This is why, now, it's an interesting challenge because you've got a program that on the surface looks very simple. Yeah. It's a notepad. It's very deep. And discovery is a challenge. To teach your users is a challenge.
It has help, tells you as local help, and it has full help, which takes an awful long time to have to write all that stuff.
I bet.
Things
You've
like
made videos too. You've got a lot of videos.
Yeah, like here it says text entered here will go under %. So the system that the designer worked in had to be able to let him set the prompt text and stuff like that. All that, the design for all that stuff is such a pain. But here we go. Let's go to the camera. Here we go. There's my setup. See up there? Let's take a picture.
How much code can you reuse in a project like this, or do you have to start from scratch with everything?
Well, I mean, what do you mean reuse? I mean,
is there code that you wrote for demo, for instance, that you can
No, this is all code for it. Now, whether I can use some of this code, for an Android version or not, we'll see. I mean, some of this is in straight C. I mean, there's a reason why this is so fast.
Yeah.
This is,
Look at that. So you took a picture and you've embedded it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now for different speed purposes, you can say whether you want to embed it. Do you want to downsample it before you embed it and stuff? But, you can also, put a line around it. I can put caption.
I owe you an apology. If I had known how deep this was, I would have absolutely made this a pick on iPad today.
And that's the thing. It's about discovery, right?
It's about discovery.
Yeah. There's so much in this thing. And I'm working on it to add more now. I mean, that's all I'm doing is programming. I mean, putting the new stuff in it.
Well, the brilliance of it is it looks very simple, and it gets me right away. It's a notepad paper, and I can write on it like I'd write on notepad paper. But then the more you're showing me, the more I'm like, oh, but I can also add graphs if I want. I can also take a picture if I want. It goes very deep.
If you want to, you can keep drilling down if you want. So, for example, if you want, the file name for output, okay? Well, we've got all these optional fields, just like in Word, You can put the file name in. The file name can be based on the page name or based on the date. Whatever you want. I mean, it's the user gets to decide that stuff. Push a button here, and it'll go to the printer over there. How we have this nice wireless printer on the.
Nice.
If it's not too low on ink.
Which it is always. They always are.
Yeah, it's always low. So here, I mean, this is, let's see. Here's Ben's notes. This is some other notes somebody did for math. You can see why this won't work with just plain text.
Right.
But there are times when you want, to do flow charting or stuff like that. So this is it is a very deep app. I mean, that's why it has to have a help that's like, here's the content.
Well, it's deceptively deep.
Yeah.
But I wonder, I mean, the iPad, do you think iPad users are willing to put that much energy into an app?
Yeah, well, if you're using it like people taking notes every day, you're using this thing 5 hours a day.
Students will love this.
Students.
Yeah, they'll love this.
Lawyers use it in court. Well, here's what
You've
people
got
do.
calendars in here. You've got, I mean, it's really kind of cool.
So here's a W-4 form, right? Let's see. This is on the IRS website.
It's a PDF, yeah.
Okay, open in Note Taker. Create a page. Okay, so now I have that. Let's go edit it. And
right. You sold me.
I can
$5, folks.
Now, why are people doing this? Because contractors need it.
Right.
Because they need signatures.
Forms.
Yeah. And then you just email it right out as a PDF. Whenever somebody sends me contracts and stuff, I import it into here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm careful not to show you the ones that I signed.
Yeah, right.
And because, those type of things, it is, for a lot of people, it's better than paper. The funniest things are when I get an email late at night from somebody saying, it stopped letting me ink. I can't write anymore. And I can go back to, we don't have to see this anymore. We can go back to me. It's not letting me write anymore. And what happened? I said, well, the only reason it would stop writing is if you wrote more than 100,000 points, because that's sort of the limit, which I figured was a lot. And that couldn't play. Check this number. There's in the settings, I actually let you get to the raw data and stuff, so you can find out that number for this purpose. And sure enough, somebody had it. Because they said, I have to have this by tomorrow morning. I said, I bet you have a final tomorrow morning and you're allowed one piece of paper. And you do everything. And sure enough, I had a few people who've had this happen.
It's all on one piece of paper.
But it turns out we figured out the way around it. You output it as a PDF, bring the PDF in, and then add more on top of it. Yay! And but you should see what you saw. I think that's what that one that I showed you was.
That looked like it had 100,000 points in it. Yeah.
That one's actually up on the notetakerhd.com website. You can actually look at that PDF if you want. So this is, now how did I know which features to do in what order? It's all, people are telling me all the time. If 10 people ever, to ask for something, maybe, probably are a lot of people who want it. If somebody every day is asking for it, that maybe this might help sales, maybe make people happy. Even
so
if it's hard.
You listen to the audience, in other words?
You really do. And you get feedback.
Yeah.
Your sales, with the iPad and iPhone, you get the sales every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I mean, compared to other software projects you've worked on, it's lucrative enough to make it worthwhile.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he says. Even with Apple's 30% cut, at least you don't have to host the file.
This thing?
Yeah, you bought that.
Yeah, I bought that. It can be, but it can go away like that. I mean
well, therein lies your incentive to do what you're doing, which is continually work on it, continually improve it.
Yeah, you really do.
Dan is on Twitter at DanB, which is an excellent Twitter handle.
Yeah, well, it's luckily got that one.
Yeah, you got it soon enough. And you should follow him. He's also online, danbricklin.com. And what I love about you, and I find this true of a number of people who were pioneers in the industry, people like Steve Wozniak, is the enthusiasm that you still have for this just shines through, and it's inspiring. And
stuff.
Say again?
I mean, thank God I can still do it.
Thank
God I mean, if you like programming, you get the high from it, when it works. Look, you like my app, and I coded it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All of it myself, except for the shapes that Mike did, and
how old are you, Dan?
I'm going to be 60 this summer.
Do you feel like you can be too old to program, or does it? Apparently not in your case.
Well, you can when you can't do a lot of other things. I mean, eventually certain things go, but who knows? Is that at 60, 70, 80, or 90?
Yeah.
You know, it.
Do you find it more difficult to hold a bunch of? I mean, one of the things that I find hard with programming is you have to hold a lot of loose ends in your head. Focus.
Yeah, no, I'm still able to do that somehow or other. You have to do an awful lot, and you have bigger monitors now. That is a help. I can show you. I have under the eaves over there. I have some old card decks that I used to, where you got 2 runs a week if you're lucky.
Yeah, well, that's true. We can iterate much faster. You like Xcode?
Yeah. I mean, it does what I need, and
what was your favorite programming environment that you ever used?
Favorite? I don't know.
MSM?
I worked with. I mean, just all sorts of things were fun.
Yeah.
It's just.
You don't have one you look back and say, boy, that was like Turbo Pascal. A lot of people go.
I love JavaScript as a language.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, the objects in it are so simple and so powerful.
Right.
And you can do such cool things if you can go play with the social calc. I think I may have a link to one that you can play with or something there. But
you like DOM?
Yeah, and being able to modify it and do all the things you can do in JavaScript. It's so fast.
Yeah.
And on the one laptop per child, which is the slow little machine.
It's amazing.
You could have 1,000 rows or something like. I mean, I made sure it was fast enough that a farmer who was using the kids' machine to do their work, or the school that was keeping a list of all the kids, would be able to use it fast enough.
That's great.
What do you use? What environment for developing in JavaScript? Do you have one that you use?
I used a free text editor and just write in text.
You write in text.
Yes, that's all I did. Yeah. Not
somebody's,
Notepad, but
somebody's saying, ask him about Node.js. We already asked. He uses all his own libraries.
I own, but for a lot of other people, maybe you should use one of the others. Mine, I could.
Yeah. This is Dan Bricklin we're talking about.
No. If something wasn't there, I couldn't wait for them to have it.
Right.
I needed to get done whatever I wanted to do. If I wanted this type of control, I needed to build it, because the UI, this back to your thing about you want the UI to be a certain way. So at least I can go build it. I can test it out. I can do that stuff. But it's amazing what you can do today with Well, there was another issue. In those early days, the machines weren't very fast, but I had to be able to run on the slow machines in IE6. And I did a lot of timing loops to see how fast things were. And just adding jQuery slowed things down enough that it made a difference, because it added some things to some of the operations that mattered. So at that point, I didn't have the extra headroom to be able to use those systems. Nowadays, you can, and for a lot of things, you're not recalculating 10,000 cells, scrolling 1,000 or 5,000 rows spreadsheet up and down. When I scroll, I delete rows and insert them from the bottom, so that I can do the whole thing with. There's so many things you need to be able to do with panes and multiple panes and stuff like that. That worked better than loading the whole thing in, which is what Google had done. Google couldn't handle more than like 100 rows in their spreadsheet at the time. Yeah. And I could handle 1,000 or 5,000 on the same machine.
See, working in a constrained environment all those years ago.
Yes.
It's a good discipline, and we're back into constrained environments again. I guess it always happens.
It's always constrained.
Yeah. There's always something.
Because you're always going to want to fit it in something you couldn't fit it in before.
Getting the ink to be able to be fast, to zoom like that with a PDF in the background that zooms smoothly and doesn't have, checkerboard patterns around it while you're zooming, so that you can follow Tufte's thing of saying you're always, you have your context. That's a lot of work. Yeah. You're always pushing things to the limit. So,
Dan, such a pleasure talking to you. I want to get you back again and again, because we never get to talk about all of the things. There's so many things you've done and so many things you're interested in. Great photography too.
Oh yeah, thanks. Did you see the pictures I took last night with my new lens
from Nerd? Yeah, yeah, really fun, really fun. It's at danbricklin.com. People, you can go there, look at his pictures, listen to his podcast. Yes, he does podcasts, videos. Don't forget the book, Bricklin on Technology, and let's say it again, the app, which is now front page on my iPad, is Note Taker HD. I'm going to get it for the iPhone, too. Is there a way to share notes from the iPhone and the iPad together?
Not yet. I haven't touched the old one in ages. You'll be disappointed if you think you're going to get it on the iPhone.
I'm going to stick with the iPad.
Stick with the iPad. Well, the other one's useful, and there's a free version. There's a light version for just quickly writing down a phone number, but it is different.
This is so powerful. This is everything you would want, and I just kick myself for not plugging it, but we'll give it a plug on iPad today next week. Dan, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Great talking to you, Dan.
Isn't he fun?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Dan. See you later.
Take care. Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Good to meet you, Dan.
Dan Bricklin, the man who created the first killer app. And what I love is 31 years later, he's still creating killer apps 32 years later.
I didn't mention this I wish I'd mentioned this when we were talking to him, but I didn't want to interrupt him because it was so interesting. I've been sitting with my iPad at times thinking, I wish I just had something where I could just write.
Yeah.
That was good. That's it.
That's it. And then, but you still get also the structured text. You still get
all
the features that you would want.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I didn't get right away. I thought, oh, it's ink.
Yeah.
And that's why, it's dumb. Hey, before we go, and we're going to have some news about shows coming up in just a bit, but I want to mention our friends at Netflix who sponsor this show. If you like the shows that you see here on the Twit Network, support the sponsors, would you? Because they're the ones who make it possible. It is not inexpensive to do this, but these guys, I've been trying to get Netflix on this darn network for years. We got them. Now that everybody's already a Netflix subscriber, so here's the deal. Tell your friends. Get your mom on Netflix. Get your cousin Joey. Get him on Netflix. He just got his first computer. Say, hey, Joey, Netflix.com/twit.
We know you like Barton Fink. You can watch it streaming.
You know what? This is a movie to watch streaming because the first time I saw it, it made no freaking sense at all. But John Goodman in anything and John Turturro in anything.
Oh, yeah. They're both brilliant.
It's weird, but see, if you've got it on streaming.
And Tony Shalhoub's in it.
Tony Shalhoub. If you get it on streaming, it's like the barrier to entry is low. So you can watch this and not say, oh, well, there's $6.50 down the tubes. No.
And you can skip back. You're like, wait a minute.
You need to, believe me.
I want to take a look at.
But I love this movie, and that's the thing. That's the funny thing that happens with movies. Sometimes you become you see a movie like a perfect example, The Big Lebowski. You see it, and it's kind of, oh, that was interesting, and you leave the theater. But then you go, I'd like to see that again. And then the next time you watch it, you go, wow, there's something going on there. And by the fifth time you watch The Big Lebowski or Barton Fink, you're going, this is brilliant. That's where Netflix is so cool. Of course, the DVD by mail in less than a business day. And I have the 5 DVD subscription. I am a complete glutton. But notice, these haven't changed in months. I got this one January 3rd. Why? Because I watch instantly.
Yeah, so we went to one DVD subscription because we just stream all the time.
Yeah, I should. And actually, they have now one that's $7.99. That's a no DVD subscriction. But you could try it. Look, get a DVD.
It's still like having one because it gives you the full catalog.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. I know we should be honest and say not everything is on streaming, but so many things are. You never feel like, oh wow, I wish there were something to watch. It's like having a video store in your house. Remember video stores?
Yeah.
Used to be able to go and they would have like cassettes.
Those. They're called something else now. For lease.
For lease.
I think. I see that.
I think the one down the street's called For Lease. Yeah.
I see that sign on them a lot.
For sale.
Yeah.
Vacant. This is it. That's why, because of this.
Yeah.
Try it free. Netflix.com/twit. Let's pick something. I like Louis C.K. I haven't seen this one. Chewed Up. He is one of the funniest comics I've ever heard. See, these are the ones. Oh,
see, I don't know Louis C.K.
Oh, yeah, he's great. But see, now you can know it.
But I can easily just go on my iPad and watch it.
Yep. Gangs of New York. I like history.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a great movie?
A great movie. There were issues with it, but it was so well done.
I ended up buying the book.
Care about it.
I ended up buying the book on 5 Corners because I loved the history. And when a movie brings history to life like that, it's fantastic.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people criticize the movie because it glossed over some of the history, but it brought it to life so much that so many people got interested in it.
Yes, I read the books. And also movies like documentaries that you're not going to see in theaters. Before the Academy Awards, I often will go and look at all the documentaries. Netflix is great. Yeah. I just love it. Netflix.com/twit. Give it a try, okay?
Please.
Now, Eileen's not here.
Oh,
she's down at Google I/O.
Yeah.
I was going to ask her who's coming up.
We have a doc.
Who? No, I know Twert is coming up next, but I meant
on
on
Triangulation.
A future Triangulation.
Next time.
Kirk Harnack wants to get in here and do his show. I'm sorry, Kirk. We apologize. This week of Radio Tech. You always follows
nothing in
our
the
show.
doc.
We
There's
do our
nothing
show
done.
Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live.twit.tv.
I'm out of
Join me
town
and
next
Tom.
week, so there won't be a Triangulation next week.
Oh yeah, because that would be
parallel.
Triangulation. It wouldn't be good.
Be non-intersecting lines.
No, we'd get well. That's oftentimes my shows are. In fact, lines that go into eternity.
But
yeah.
We've
8
got
Mile.
John Perry Barlow, Jay Adelson, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Waz all in the hopper that we've already done.
That we haven't released?
To put in the podcast feed. Yeah.
What?
I think some of those have already been released.
How could
but
that
those
be?
are noted as banked. So.
Oh my God! Some of the shows. Well, we didn't make a podcast out of it right away.
Yeah, exactly.
So some of our best stuff is on the cutting room floor, but we're going to put it out. We're going to have an encore presentation or something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. No, we won't. You're going to be in. Where are you going?
Montreal.
Oh, that's right. You actually get a vacation.
We eat poutine. It's good stuff.
We'll see you next week. Triangulation. Not next week. 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
Sometime. We'll see you later.